My name is Svetlana Stefanova, and I'm the executive director of the 17th Annual Damn Short Film Festival. Welcome to our Filmmaker Q&A session for Comedy A. Let's get our filmmaker up on the screen if we have one or two. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, good to see you again.
You too. So tell us about your film and what your role was and where you're calling from.
Sure. So my film is Across the Room. I was the director on the film, and I'm calling in from Century City, Los Angeles.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for submitting to the Damn Short Film Festival. And so, why was this? What drew you to this particular film? Why did you think it was an important story to tell to you? So please let us know.
Sure. So actually, the idea for the film came from my writing partner Matt Clifford, who wrote the script. We worked together. We're both in the industry. We worked together, and he came to my desk one day and he said, "I've got a really dumb idea." And I said, "Great, I love those. Say more." And he was like, "What if we did a short where part of it, if not all of it, was told through looks and subtitles?" Like visual language. And I was like, yeah, I love that. Why not? And it was going to be the second project I had ever directed, and I wanted to really challenge myself, and that seemed like a really cool, challenging idea. And we thought about what the premise of the setup might be, and we decided on two couples who were just having like the worst dates ever, and then a guy from one couple and a girl from the other couple. They make eye contact across the room and have a whole visual conversation.
That's great. So let's see. You said you had this was your second film you directed. What was your first project?
So my first project, again, it was with Matt. He had written a short called Apology, which is about a boss who kind of has lucked his way up the company ladder, and he finds out one day that one of his employees has passed away. And he's been asked to say a few kind words about the employee. He has no idea who this person is, and they have kind of like gender neutral names. So he spends the short trying to figure out as much as he can about this person without trying to give it away. And that was literally three of my friends in a room for a couple hours, like an office room on a Sunday. And I had so much fun doing it that I was like, okay, I want to do this again. I can figure this out. So yeah, it's been a really pleasant experience all around, both projects.
Great. So I mean, it's hard enough to be, to be funny, or I mean, it's not hard for some people, but like how do you make a comedy film? I mean, it's so hard to, I think, translate that and make the audience laugh. And so what's your approach to that? Is comedy the genre you want to work in?
Yeah, so that's absolutely 100%. Both Matt and I, we write together. We primarily write comedy, and I think that as a new director, a lot of that comedy just comes from the script itself. If you start with a really solid foundation, you just can't go wrong. I mean, if you really kind of bounce off that dialogue and you make it come alive, you're on the right track to something, right? I think a lot of things that helped me is I watched a lot of movies or folks in comedy who I really, really enjoy and who really don't, especially since we're doing a short, like didn't want to waste any space. So like Edgar Wright is a director who I really, really appreciate. He shoots like an editor, and I really enjoy that about him and just the way that he structures things. And then Christopher Guest is another favorite of mine. So just, I think the more that you take in, it contributes to like how you see a script when you read through it. And then kind of thinking around how you can use stuff, like how you can use dialogue, so like your verbal cues for humor, and then how you can use like the physical things in a room. So I know like in Across the Room, we have kind of an actress character who gets out a bag of crystals at the table and attempts to like cleanse the aura of the place. It's very silly. But like that was the thing of like, okay, I not only have a great actress to like play around with because her facial expressions are brilliant. I love Kate Fairbanks so much. But we also have like the different crystals to play around with. And like we did a couple of we just kind of varied things and saw what worked and put everything together in the editing room. Editing is also super, super important. I would to anyone doing comedy, I would lean heavily on your editor. Hire a good editor.
That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. So we are taking questions from the audience. So wherever you're tuning in from, please send us some questions. I don't think we have anything yet. If we do, our moderators will put it up on the screen. But for now, I will just keep asking you questions until we get something from the audience. So how did you get into filmmaking?
So I started out writing, still do writing as that's my daily thing that I do. But Matt and I met on, we both worked in the industry on The Young and the Restless, on a soap opera. We started, yeah, right? We started out as assistants there and then kind of worked our way up through the ranks. And it was a really lovely experience. I will say this, the folks who work in daytime TV are some of the hardest working people I've ever met. We taped, and just as an example, we would tape Tuesday through Friday, and we would tape 5 episodes in 4 days, which is like an insane input output. So that taught me a lot about the process of something you write, how it becomes a tangible thing, right? How it's directed, how it goes through that pipeline, and when it has to go through really quickly, what's the best way to get the best product, and the best way to be creative at the same time while knowing what your constraints are. So I watched a lot of our really, really talented directors pump these shows out, and the way that they would break down a script and think about it really methodically and really critically. And that made me want to try directing. It made me look at my own scripts as a writer and look at Matt's scripts and say, these are doable. We should do these. I want to actually physically see these. And we kind of we did, because I'm so used to working on that fast schedule. So just to give you an idea, Apology, we shot, I think Apology was 7-8 minutes. We shot it in 3-4 hours in an office space. And across the room is 9 minutes, and it was 13 pages long, and we did that in 4 hours as well, in one space. The idea is to know what you we only had one night to film everything. That was how we had set it up. That's how we got everyone's availability. So it was okay, these are our constraints. These are our parameters. How do we do the best thing that we can and give everybody the chance to be creative and not feel like they're on a clock, but we're focused and we're pushing towards making something we want to see.
Yeah. What was your experience like being as a female filmmaker in the industry?
It's been an overwhelmingly positive experience, but I also understand that I've worked very closely with folks who already know me. So as a writer, plenty of doors slammed in my face all the time. That's just how it goes. It's just the experience. Directing shorts is kind of my way to really test what I'm able to do and to really see the talent of folks I know and folks whose talent who I really want to show off. And I really just love working together as a team. So working with Matt's skill as a writer, and Jordan McKittrick, who is our DP, and Alexandra Peral, who did our sound for Across the Room, absolutely helped us. And to give all of our actors just space to shine. That's been my favorite part, just as directing in general. But I love seeing other women directors in film, and it gives me a lot of hope, and it gives me a lot of, it makes me feel like I'm pushing in the right direction, I suppose is the way to say that.
Great. And a little bit about your actors. I mean, yes, they're all really amazing. They really, I feel, nailed all those characters very well. Talk about the process of finding those actors and how that worked out.
So all of them, but Carissa Tate, who is our redhead, every single one of them are Y&R actors, Young and the Restless actors. Matt and I approached them all, and we were like, hey, do you have a do you have a free Friday night? Do you want to come hang out with us at the restaurant next door? They're letting us use one of their rooms. We think this would be really fun. I'll buy you free wine. Like that was like that's the draw. Honestly, the fact that they were willing to like give up their time was so gracious of them. And it, again, just a total testament to actors who work in daytime. Like, they nailed those parts and like memorized those pages. They came in so ready to go. It was just it was just an easy thing.
That's awesome. I think we have our other filmmaker.
Oh, perfect.
Is it a person or a question that came in? Sorry, no, not yet. They're coming. Okay, I think we have somebody coming in. But let's see. While we wait for them, so what was your favorite part about working on this project?
I think it's that collaborative spirit is really kind of the thing that always makes me happy. And honestly, getting together in a room of people who not only are super talented, but work really well together and who work really well together, and to just hanging out with them for a few hours and drinking some wine and making sure we get our angles, but just having a good time. Like, that's been the best part of everything for me.
As long as there's wine, that
always. You never like just enough wine to have fun, but not enough wine to like upset your editor when he's going through your footage later. So
there you go. And we've got Meredith joined us. Please introduce yourself. Tell us your film and where you're calling in from.
Sure, I'm calling in from just outside Washington, D.C. in Virginia. The film is A Piece of Cake, and it is about a desperate father who is attempting to get those little silver dragées, those confectionery balls, for his daughter's birthday, only to find out that they're illegal in California. And so he must decide whether to break a promise or break the law.
Such a hilarious.
Sorry, I loved your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
It's so good.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. I co-directed and co-wrote it with my brother, who is not here this evening. But I do want to make sure that he is mentioned and I don't hog all the limelight. And I was listening to the, as I was waiting to join, I was listening to the talk, and I just want to second all props to Edgar Wright. I'm just such a big fan of his, and what he has done with editing and humor is fantastic, and I agree, yeah.
What are some of your other inspirations? We'll start with you, Meredith.
Sure. I mean, Edgar Wright is way up there. I'm a big fan of. I'm a sketch comedy nerd, so I grew up Kids in the Hall, Key and Peele, Monty Python, whatever SNL you grow up with is what you consider to be the best, I'm sure. So a lot of sketch comedy. And then my brother and I were part of Channel 101 New York for quite some time, and we created a number of films there, and a lot of the people we met there and seeing what people were doing on Channel 101, both LA and New York, was just really inspiring to us.
Great, and looks like we have a question from the audience. Yay! And this one is for Melinda. So how much of directing is about your team?
So much. I would be pressed to say all of it, because the folks you are working with have their different. It's about seeing how everyone on your team works and figuring out the best way to highlight all of the positive aspects about how everyone works, and then try to manage all of the like pitfalls that might occur. And if anything catches on fire, metaphorically or physically, during filming, to just like kind of keep an even head and like always focus on. I think that's the responsibility of a director, is to figure out the best way forward despite whatever circumstances you're put in. And to be the person who, even if you don't necessarily have the answer at the moment, somebody knows that you will.
Yeah. Meredith, you want to take a crack at this question as well?
Sure. A little history. When my brother and I started, it was just us, basically, and sometimes another person, and we did everything. So we would shoot it, light it, produce it, edit it, do all the After Effects work, do all the color, like everything. And for the last couple of years, we did that for quite some time. And for the last couple of years, we've tried to actually stretch and grow our team. And I think that has given me a real appreciation. When we first went on, not this film, but the film we did 2 years ago, was the first time we had directed with a crew, and I think it was maybe 10 people. And I just remember thinking, oh, all these people to manage, right? And it was actually completely the opposite. If you hire good people and you have good people on set and you have a clear vision and they understand it, they are solving problems for you and making things better and elevating your production. And for A Piece of Cake, it was absolutely that way. I mean, it was definitely the largest thing we'd ever done, but it was really a fantastic experience. And I think a lot of that had to do with the people that we surrounded ourselves with. So I think, pick good people, don't pick jerks, pick people who share your sort of vision for the story and are on board, and then let them surprise you, because that's what's going to happen. And it's great. And I think as a director, your job is to try to, I don't know, Melinda, maybe you write, I think you wrote and directed as well, right? So as a writer, I keep thinking like, okay, well, we're building the story. And as a director, I think you're just trying to not break it. Like all these things are happening constantly and there are all these problems. And your job is to make sure that the story is still going to work, because things will have to change. Something is going to happen that is not going to be what's in your head. And that's okay. And with enough repetition, reps at this, you realize that it's not a problem. In many ways, it can be a gift, and you roll with it. So if it happens to be raining that day, fantastic, great. You couldn't, now all of a sudden your DP's happy because your parking lot's wet, right? So like, right. This is great. Now you could, so
you gotta use it.
That's, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's all about the team.
Yeah.
It's not really about the director.
Yeah. And the more things you do, like the more experience you get with different aspects of production. Like if you're a writer, go be a director and see what that feels like. Like if you're a director, like also think about producing, like sit in with your editor and watch how editing happens. So that way, when you're directing or when you're writing, you can kind of keep those things in mind and understand like it's a whole different way of not necessarily killing your darlings, but just altering them, because they're going to have to at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another question from the audience. Can we get that up on the screen, please? All right. Let's see. The question for Melinda. The actors did such a great job emoting the lines with their facial expressions. How difficult was that to get it right?
We had such a skilled bunch of folks working with us. We let them take it and run with it. So we had a brief rehearsal kind of the night before, just to give everybody a sense of like, here's how this is going to work. Here's how we feel like we're going to do things, because it was just myself, my writing partner, the actors, our DP and sound. So that's all we were working with for lighting and sound and everything. So I wanted to make sure everybody felt comfortable in the space. Nobody felt overwhelmed as we literally kind of walked through things and we got marks. But the day of, basically the way that we kind of handled it was, since we just kind of didn't worry about sound because we knew we were just going to go straight for subtitles, I actually would read the lines, would read like the female's lines on Alex's lines on one side of the room, and then my writing partner would read Ben's lines. So that way they would have the lines to respond to, and they knew what lines they were, like what their faces were supposed to convey. And so we would do that. We ran through it that way on rehearsal, just so they knew what to expect. And then the night of, we went through it all in one take, let it be as organic as it could be, flow as much as it could. And it was just a really cool experience. But yeah, it was all on their shoulders or faces, and they really made it work.
It's great. And I also I had hoped to have both of you on here to tell you how amazing both of your films, the actors, everything. But Meredith, do you want to talk a little bit about how you found your actors and how that process works?
Sure. So we have a fantastic casting director, Lindsay Weissmuller, and when we gave her the script, and she sent us a list of possible people for the lead. And one of those people was someone on Mad Men. And I remember first coming across him and thinking, oh, he'd be good. But I actually wondered about this other guy. I wonder if Rich is there. And Rich was later on down the, because it was alphabetical. And so we sent it to Rich. He was our first choice. And he said yes, which was crazy and completely unexpected. And then we proceeded. The next step was to go for the kid, to figure out who the daughter was going to be. And then from there, we would sort of triangulate and figure out the mom. And it, we watched a lot of tapes. We talked to a lot of people. And being East Coast filmmakers, and we flew out to LA to shoot this, it was really important to us that, we talked to a lot of people on the phone, and it was important for us to get it right. So we took our time, and we went through a couple rounds, and we just found some fantastic people. We're just really thrilled.
That's awesome. And Meredith, so what's it like working with your brother? And then can you touch on, so there's obviously so many like sibling filmmaking teams out there. Is that just because of proximity and you just need, someone to work with and you're just a sibling team, or is there something more to that?
I could tell you, I can't speak to the Coen brothers or the Foss brothers or the Zucker brothers or any of the other, teams, but we just, we grew up trying to make each other laugh. There's a cassette tape of us doing bad Star Wars parodies, right? And as we grew up, we would write these ridiculous ideas and no one was going to shoot them. So we figured out how to shoot them. And then all of a sudden you realize that it's been a decade and you've been making, bizarre shorts and sketches. And I think one of the great things about having someone else around, especially when you're trying to come up with something, is you can talk through it and you're not just in your head. And to have someone else there who you can shoot a bunch of ideas at and they can swat them down super fast, and that's fine because you're going to come up with something else and something better. And it's always been really, really helpful to have someone like that to sort of bounce ideas around. And we have similar comedic tone and ideas. So when we hatch on something good, all of us, we're all in there and we're both pushing in the same direction. So it's not as if it's really a rivalry in any sense. Not anymore. When we were maybe middle school was tough.
Well, it's good you got past that. So we
got past it.
So obviously we've gone virtual this year. There's a lot of especially with comedy, experiencing that audience reaction. There's, we're working really hard to recreate as much of the key aspects of our festival that we love, translating it to the virtual world. But there's some things that, are pretty hard to replicate. Have you guys had the experience of having these films play in front of an audience at a festival? What's that experience been like? And have you had been through the festival circuit through virtual festivals as well? Let us know about that. We'll start with Melinda.
Sure. Gosh, I wish that I could have been able to see this with a crowd. We filmed this in November of 2019, kind of went through editing, really had it finished up in about January. And we actually, Matt and I have two creative friends who also wanted to do, who also made a romantic comedy short. And we were going to dual premiere them together. We rented out the theater and it was going to be so cool. And then COVID hit and it was awful. So it was one of those things where we were like, well, okay, we'll push it and kind of see what happens. And then it just kind of kept going and kept going. But that all being said, we haven't been able to physically go to a festival yet, but the switch that film festivals have been asked to make this past year has been a tough one. And it's such a hard thing. And it's been a really positive experience all around and knowing what limitations you guys are facing. And I know that Matt and I were both absolutely thrilled to get into this particular festival, to know how long you guys have been around and to hear how well you treat and take care of your filmmakers. And that was evident even this year when we had to go virtual and we're far away, but
thank you. That means a lot. We try.
No, 100%. Yeah, and it's been a real joy.
Great, Meredith. What's your experience been like with this film?
This is like a twisting the knife question.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. We were going to premiere at Tribeca, which would be an absolute insane dream for us. And of course, it was one of the first festivals that shut down, I think, after South by. And so we didn't. But everything has been virtual. We have actually yet to see our film in a theater with people. I will say this though, we had a similar film. We had a film on the circuit last year. Actually, it was at the Dam Short Film Festival last year. And it's hard when you have a film and festivals around the country or even in other places around the world. It's really difficult to get there, especially when you have, I don't know, family, day jobs. It's difficult. We were going to go for this film festival. We had said we really love this film. We want to go out there. We were really planning on doing it. So we have had the very weird experience of never being at a single film festival for this film, and yet virtually having the ability to be at almost every single film festival for this film. And that is insane. We have been in, we've been able to do Q&As in London, New Zealand, and other places, and now we're talking to you now, and that is that's not something that would have happened, frankly, on a normal festival run. So it's been, in some ways, it's been really great to reach out and talk to people and be able to have these conversations, even though we can't physically be there.
Do you feel that you're still able to make those same kind of connections with people and filmmakers? And have you found yet?
I haven't been in the virtual lounge, which I need to, and I know
this.
I have to. I know. Yeah, we have been able to do a few of those things. It's not, I don't think the connections are necessarily the same, because it's not as if you're going out and going to a bar for a few hours with a couple of strangers you just met and sitting around and talking. But, somehow I will find Melinda on social media, and we will at least have a tangential connection there. And then when we see each other a year from now, 2 years from now, then we'll have something to at least start the conversation off with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Melinda, have you? What's your experience with this? Do you feel like you can still network and make connections this way?
I do think I agree with Meredith that, yeah, in some way, absolutely, connections are totally being made in the midst of all this. Especially here, I feel like you guys have done absolutely everything you can to try and facilitate those connections with the mixer and the Discord server and things like that. It's been really nice. But yeah, nothing kind of beats just actually physically getting to hang out with people. And I know that that's just not a reality right now, and it's best for everyone to stay safe. But when it is, when that time comes, when it's okay to do so again, it's something that I'm absolutely looking forward to.
Definitely.
And I'll say it's been really interesting to watch how festivals have figured out how to do this over time. I mean, It went from virtually nothing to now there are a number of options for us at this film festival, and it's been really great to see how people have pivoted.
Yeah, and I one other thing that I will say that's been a really positive experience for me in particular, and for other filmmakers I know, going to film festivals was always something that is looked forward to, but it's also something that is not necessarily cheap. Like getting there, staying there, figuring things out, taking time off of figuring out with your work situation or your room situation. And this kind of going virtual, or at least having a virtual component, especially in the future, even if you have a physical component as well, I think that really removes some of the hindrances for folks who might be like financially challenged and really great filmmakers. I think it removes some of those hurdles and lets them connect with other people who they might not have been able to if they couldn't afford to go.
Yeah. Yeah, we are definitely considering the option of, having some sort of hybrid, bringing some of the cool new aspects of this virtual world that we've, been forced to adapt to, and in utilizing that. So I think, and that brings me to my next question. I mean, we've all, obviously this pandemic has just been so difficult for everyone on so many levels, and we've had to adapt in so many different ways. In what ways has it affected your approach to your craft, and are there any aspects of that change that you are going to carry forward? Like, is there anything good that's come out of this for you? Let's start with Meredith.
Yes, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to, my brother and I have we got hired to write a feature because of a piece of cake, and we've had more time to write a feature because we've been at home. So we are actually delivering that on Tuesday. So it's been a really nice, shouldn't say nice break. It's been we figured out how to use our time. And that has been not something we expected, but it's been helpful.
Yeah, you gotta make do. So
exactly.
What do you have? Melinda, how about you?
Same. It's been one of those times for my writing partner and I where we were like, well, what are pardon me, but it's like, what's our fucking idea? Like, go to it, do it. It's not like you don't have the time to write it. We'll figure it out. And that for us was we wrote an animated pilot about a corgi assassin, which those are all words. So
those
fun.
corgis can get real vicious. It's true.
Yeah.
Totally.
Didn't know there were other corgis out there. Yeah, that's great.
my own corgi's like looking at, like giving me side eye right now. But we did that. We found an illustrator friend of ours to do like a nice little pitch deck for us. So that's like something we got to develop, which is so fun to do. We also we finished a rom-com road trip movie that we were really proud of, and we're kind of trying to figure out the best way to shop that around at the moment, looking for folks to get on board with that. So that's been a real good time. So yeah, it's just been about trying to pivot and flex muscles that we otherwise wouldn't have, or ones that we previously didn't have time to do. So that's been good. And we're still writing shorts, ones that we hope to film, but we just, especially with being out in LA where numbers are still relatively high, we would absolutely want to wait until things are, safe.
Yeah. Let's see. We have maybe about 10 more minutes. Anyone out there, please send in your questions. This is, comedy is always obviously amazing, especially, we have a question from Anita, who is the festival co-founder and one of our programmers for drama. So for Meredith, what was your feature offer based? Was your feature offer based on Piece of Cake, or is it another story?
It's not an expanded version of A Piece of Cake. That it would have been smart for us to have that and then do the short, but we didn't. We'll get there. This is about. It's based on the true story of Roger Sharp, who was a Midwesterner who came out to New York and was living in New York City in the 1970s and managed to demonstrate that pinball was a game of skill and not chance, and therefore the 35-year-old ban in the city on the game should be lifted. And he's sort of a cross between Santa Claus and or it's basically the Santa Claus of pinball. And so it's about him going through this process, learning that he has a very interesting story, going through this process, learning about how the problems with the pinball's legality in New York, and at the same time meeting his his eventual wife to be. So it's a parallel storyline.
Wow, that sounds very interesting.
Awesome.
It's bizarre. For whatever reason, we seem to like shiny silver balls as a plot point.
There
I don't
you
know
go.
why. We didn't plan it this way, but yeah.
That's great. So what was the most difficult part of filming in your projects? We'll start with Melinda.
Sure. I mean, the difficulty for us was just making sure everything was as in place as it could be, making sure all of our actors had the time free, and we had one evening to do it. We got in at 7 and we walked out at 11. Either way, like we had to get something in between there. And also, hilariously enough, slightly hilarious story about the making of this. The restaurant that we were at, it essentially had like a second floor and it had different rooms, like party rooms that you could rent out. And because I knew one of the GMs there, he was like, "Hey, you can just use the room. You're fine." It was lovely of them. So we got there, we got everything prepped. Like rehearsal went really well. We get there and we discovered that the room across from us has been booked. And my first thought was, "Oh no! What if it's like a wedding party? What if it's something really loud? Like, what are we gonna do? Should I go like introduce myself?" And then it turned out to be a slideshow on how to deal with animal sepsis. So no one would be making any, like it was a very somber topic. And so I regardless, I still went to go introduce myself, but I was like, no one will be giving any like toasts. There will be no cheers, no dancing will happen. So that like, between that and like trying to work out, like Meredith was saying, like just other things that pop up the night of filming, like it's crazy what things can happen.
Meredith, do you have any specific things that come to mind?
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing is probably when we wrote the script, we initially had a scene where it was between Rich and a pigeon. Where after he learns that they're illegal and he's sitting on the curb and he's looking at the sprinkles in his hand and there's this pigeon right next to him who's just sort of looking at him, so he throws the bird, the sprinkles. And that was great. We were all excited. We had a pigeon wrangler and everything, and there was a quarantine. There was a pigeon quarantine because of a chicken. There's a chicken quarantine, and I guess it encompassed a number of other birds. So we waited and hoped that it would be lifted, and it wasn't. So then we had this very bizarre conversation with our producers about whether we figure out how to create an animatronic pigeon or we swap it for a seagull, which for some reason wasn't in the quarantine. And we ended up just switching it to a birthday card. So we had to write it out.
Wow. So great. Okay, I'm going to ask you this question. It's like you're in a interview or something. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? We'll start with Melinda.
Oh man, I feel like that's like cursing it if I like say a projection, then it just
this is recorded, so no.
for future posterity.
Yes. So, where do you want to be so you can?
There we go. So last year, so I'm a member of the Writers Guild, absolutely looking to like get staffed, things like that. Last year, that opportunity got 100% torpedoed. Like rooms, when were they? Where were they? How? So that this year things are kind of back to normal, and especially with the recent negotiations with management companies, managers, things like that. Now that has been settled, which is great. Things are gonna hopefully continue. So immediate goal, absolutely, to get on a show I love, to like get staffed as a writer, to like do that kind of a thing, and also to hopefully develop this rom-com road trip feature with my writing partner and figure out a way to do that. I think that would be lovely. Down the road, 100% would love to direct a feature. I think it would be absolutely wonderful to team up with some great folks and get something done. And I would love that experience. And to kind of just see what doors the industry has to offer and to kind of see where I go.
That's great. Meredith, how about you?
Well, obviously, I hope to be at the damn short film festival 5 years from today, actually physically there. Otherwise, I'm pretty simple. I just want to keep doing things that stretch my, I want to make bigger, better things. I want to make sure that I'm creating and that I'm pushing myself, and that we're doing things that people like. And yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm not sure what that is yet, because I'm not sure what the world's going to look like in 5 years. But as long as I'm doing that, I'll be happy.
That's wonderful. This is a great way to end our Q&A, and thank you for joining us. And everybody, stick around. We will have another Q&A tonight at 8 p.m. I'll be back here then. It'll be our basically our comedy B, but it's called Underground, not your parents' comedy. So I kind of have the two sort of ones, like more ages can watch it,
Sure. Absolutely.
Restriction.
Yeah. So, but yeah, everybody stick around for that, and then hang out with everybody in the Filmmaker Lounge. Well, it's the virtual lounge. It's not just for filmmakers. So everybody go to damnshortfilm.org. On our main menu, there's a drop down. It says 2021 Festival, and down on that there is the virtual lounge link. It gives you an invite, so you can ask all these filmmakers questions there and connect. How can people find you? What's your social media or website? We'll start with Melinda.
Sure. So I'm probably most active on Twitter. You can find me at Melinda with 2 L's, Melinda K. And then I'm also on Instagram, I think under Melinda H. So.
Meredith, how about you?
If you go to thebraggbrothers.com, it has everything there. But I think it's the Bragg Brothers at Instagram, and we're not terribly adept at social media. We're getting better. My personal Instagram is Meredith Bragg. You can find me there.
Great.
Lots of pictures of my kids in museums.
Oh, everybody needs more of that. Sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you guys.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.